Peanut butter jelly time. It's peanut butter jelly time. Peanut butter jelly time. Where's he at? There you go. Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly. Peanut butter jelly with a baseball bat. Peanut butter jelly time was a flash animation that emerged in the early 2000s, and it became an internet phenomenon. Although this song was popular in recent history, peanut butter and jelly has been around for decades. April 2nd marks National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day in America. So today I'll be introducing to you the history of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I've been researching this topic for several days now, and I've had countless peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Actually, to the point where I became deathly allergic to peanut butter. I believe we've all had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, whether it was when we had it for 20 straight school days growing up, or when we had it in the kitchen because it was the easiest thing to make. I think we've all had it at one point in our lives. The National Peanut Board reports that the average kid in America eats 1,500 peanut butter jelly sandwiches before he graduates high school, and that 96% of people put on the peanut butter before putting on the jelly. So today I'm going to talk about the history of jelly, the history of peanut butter, and finally how the two became the greatest combination of man. So first I'm going to talk about the history of jelly. The precise history of jelly isn't actually known, and it's actually debatable. According to the International Jelly and Preserve Association, jelly was made in Middle Eastern countries centuries ago with fruit, pectin, and sugar. Then it's believed that crusaders, returning from the crusade, they introduced jams, jellies, and preservatives to Europe, and by the late Middle Ages, this was popular then. And then by the late 17th century, books on jam making were published, and the early colonists and settlers in New England preserved fruits with honey, molasses, and maple sugar. And then Smucker's Online states that in 1897, Jerome M. Smucker first pressed apple cider in his mill, making apple butter. As you can see here, this is a picture of Jerome M. Smucker, and this is what he pressed cider in. And this is the actual picture of the first Smucker jar. By 1923, he began crafting jellies, jams, and preservatives, and he was one of the first jelly-making companies. And then in 1917, Paul Welch, if you already know, if you don't know, Welch is grape. He first patented grape jam by smashing grapes and adding preservatives. He called it grapeling, and this is an advertisement of it here. So you know the history of jelly. Let's talk about the history of peanut butter. Although George Washington Carver is known as the father of peanut butter, he didn't actually invent it. PeanutButterLovers.com states that in 1880, Ambrose Straub, he crushed peanuts into paste for his geriatric patients with bad teeth and couldn't chew meat. And then at the same time, John H. Kellogg, the founder of Kellogg's cereal, he began experimenting with peanut butter as a vegetarian source of protein for his patients. It was described as a pasty adhesive substance that is for convenience of distinction, termed nut butter. And then one of the problems why it wasn't successful was because the oil and the peanut butter didn't separate. And then by the 1930s, Winston Company, now known as Peter Pan, it was the first company to make peanut butter the way we know it, rich and creamy. And then the brand Skippy, as you see here, was the first brand to have crunchy peanuts inside, and this was by the early and mid 1930s. So you know how jelly started, and you know where peanut butter came from. I will now talk about the beginning of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. According to Smucker's, no one actually knows when the first sandwich was created. There's no mention of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches before the 1940s. Food historians do know that both peanut butter and jelly were part of an American soldier's ration list during World War II. The peanut butter was available, cheap, and nutritious, and the jelly, it was a quick energy booster, it was more tasteful, and it was sweeter than just peanut butter by itself. At the time, meat and butter, they were scarce and they were expensive, and since soldiers were in combat for so long and they were easy to perish and they would expire, and peanut butter and jelly, they don't really perish at all. So this led to the speculation that American GIs would add the jelly with the peanut butter so it would be easier to eat. So after the war, the demand of peanut butter increased as did jelly. It was an instant hit, and sales in the U.S. skyrocketed. So today I explain to you the history of jelly, how it came from Middle Eastern countries, and how Jerome and Paul Welch, they began the jelly making in America. I explained to you peanut butter, how George Washington Carver isn't the inventor, but actually was Dr. Kellogg and Dr. Schraub. And then I talked about the history of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which came from American GIs. So parents and children alike like how it's fast, simple, and inexpensive to make. Many of us have had peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in our lives. So on April 2nd, let's just take that time to live the good life and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Thank you.
Jelly with banana. With tears you? Peanut butter jelly and banana.
All right, Jerome, the introduction's good. You've got a very clear thesis. The preview is solid. I like the content. You've got some nice statistics, some stories. You introduced the visual materials pretty effectively. I thought at first that you'd maybe missed a slide. It looked like you'd kind of reached up to change the slide, but I guess that wasn't the case, or you covered it really well. So either one, it was fine. Okay. On the visual factors, I thought that you emphasized your ideas pretty well with your body movements. You moved to show the slides, but you also seemed like you were stepping forward once in a while, so that was good. Gestures, you have a couple of indicators, but it's really limited because you do have the notes in your hand so much. I thought you had very good facial expressions, especially when you're making transitions between the ideas. You're really talking to the audience. The eye contact, it's solid, but it's not always well distributed. I thought the visuals were fine. They supplemented the speech pretty well. They're not essential, but they help keep it interesting and remind us of the points that you're going through. Maybe a little more script dependent than you want to be. Your voice projects really well. There's good variety and pitch in your voice. Right, I keep promising myself all the time. I told you that I was going to save those words, the pronunciation ones. Libido. Remember we had that one? Okay. I've heard this one happen before. Remind me to write it down. Scarce. It's scarce is the way you say it, but you said scarce, and it was just kind of odd. And I got to point it out because it's one of the few ones that I've remembered. I got to remind myself to write it down. You guys remind me, okay?
No. Wait, I thought it was fine either way.
No.
I asked that each one be here.
No. All right, and but other than that, I didn't see any anxiety issues at all. It's very well prepared content-wise, and I think your delivery is solid on most of the things that you're doing. All right, thank you.